Spiritual Fitness Podcast. I'm back again. I'm your host, Eric Bigger, and today we're talking about why women lose trust in relationships, partnerships, or in dating. But before we get into the details of that, this episode today is sponsored by Elia Sparkling Rose. Get 20% off with my promo code EB20 for 20% off for all orders up to $100. So, Elia Sparkling Rose. Get you some. Look, I'm almost done. This is probably like my last bottle. All right, today. So why am I doing this episode? Because I wanna give the intentions to anybody who listened to the last episode, why men should be vulnerable. What I said briefly in that episode was that I have the privilege to coach a lot of powerful, independent, successful, beautiful, strong, spiritual women. In this year, I've helped 3 women get through a divorce and transition into their higher self, their self of worthiness, their self of loving themselves unconditionally, putting themselves first, not tolerating BS or things that they don't deserve in a relationship through constant awareness, improving and helping them understand their emotional intelligence, for them to take responsibility and accountability for all the things in their marriage, their life, their business. It's been really good because I've gotten a lot of data and information and downloads from being in spaces with these women in such troubled times of getting ready for the divorce, talking about divorce, and actually having a divorce, moving out, changing things, and just evolving their soul spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. So here we are. So I want to give feedback from my paradigm and from perspective. And women listening that will listen, give me your feedback. Fellas, tune in, dial in, tap in, because we need to help the women collective consciousness from a loving space, and listen to the last episode about why us as men, we should be vulnerable. But anyway, so first thing first, if people don't understand, trust is probably the most important thing you can have in all of life. And the first thing comes with trusting yourself. I like to say trust in something greater, God, the universe, infinite intelligence, the infinite, all, whatever you want to call it, whatever you believe in. I believe trusting in something greater than yourself helps you move through life, right? And I think in relationships, especially loving relationships, I mean, you got to trust yourself to tell someone you love them, right? Because that word, I love you, we put it on a pedestal, but the reason it's held on a high pedestal is because we don't trust ourselves the way we trust someone to say the words back to us, right? Let me break it down. When we're feeling the emotions of love or to the energy of infatuation, it kind of can be similar in some essence, depending on your experience, what you've been through, how much you know yourself, how much you have evolved, your vessel, your soul, your mind, your consciousness. And so, especially from a men's paradigm, we're so afraid, I would say, in my experiences from what I know, we're so afraid to say that word because we, one, might forget we might lose power, or two, we might not hear the words back. But what does that mean? They're just words. It's just a word. But you can even trust those words or you don't. But it's not about the words. It's not even about the person saying it. It's not even about you saying it. What it comes down to in relationships and why women lose trust is because of nervous system regulation. As a woman, if you're dating someone and, the guy is consistent, he's telling you all the things you want to hear, words again, remember words. Maybe some of your love language is words of affirmation. He's consistent. He's taking you out on dates. He's complimenting you. He's asking about your family. Maybe you have some kids, about your previous relationships. Y'all having like a real good conversation. The great thing about this is that usually I would say 85% of the time or 75% of the time, this is what happens in the beginning when a man is courting or pursuing or chasing a woman. He's going to do everything. Some guys, I can't say all guys, once a guy gets in there and he gets you to open up, maybe he opens up a little bit. But maybe this guy is different than you ever experienced and making you feel, the emotions of love, trusting yourself. You're more secure in his presence. And then boom, the second phase, I believe, of any relationship should be once you spend some time, usually in a modern world, I would say would be intimacy, right? For most people. Some people like to say, is it spiritual? Is it emotional? Is it mental? Then the physical? But for most people, I'll say in the modern world, it's physical, right? So if a guy is physical with you, meaning intimate, and you guys are in the bedroom and you're having a good time, and he enjoys it, you enjoy it, great. And you do it for a few times. Now, what happens is, I can't say always, but there's a pattern and there's a probability that his energy towards you might change if he feel like he has you mentally, he has you emotionally, he has you physically, right? So what happens in turn, you head over heels, you're like, oh my God, you're telling all your friends at work or at the job or at school or whatever. His energy and his patterns start to change a bit. He's not as consistent. He's not always checking in like he used to. He's not always available like he was before this went down. Now, I could be justifying the guy's action because of what happened, right? Because of the result of the intimacy. 9 times out of 10, that's what it is. Because men, we like to hunt. We're predators. We like to chase and get what we want, right? So then you get into like, all right, well, maybe you think in your mind, you're tripping, you're overthinking, you're overanalyzing. No, he's there. He loves me. He cares about me, whatever. But say 6 months in, y'all pretty decent. And then you start feeling the expression of love and you tell him that. And then he doesn't tell you back. Now, it doesn't mean that he doesn't love you. Maybe his way of loving you is not through words, maybe it's through action, maybe it's through quality time, gifts. But anyway, your nervous system is going to tell you how much you trust the person. So people always say your actions speak louder than words. Of course, if someone cheat and you find out, or someone's lying and you find out, of course you're gonna lose trust. That's obvious. But I'm just saying from a spiritual, energetic, intangible way, the first thing why women lose trust is because in their nervous system, in their body, they can feel something's off. Whether it's be an intuitive hit, it could be an energetic nervous system doesn't feel as safe, and they're trying to figure out like, what is it? Me? Is it them? So that's where unconsciously, I believe most women lose trust within their nervous system in a partnership that they don't feel consistent in or feel safe in because the body keeps the score. So what happens is I feel like women love more unconditionally than men do, especially in strong partnerships when they confess their love for a man. They're going to do whatever it takes, at least in my experience. That's what I believe. So they're willing to wait for him to eventually say the words or for him to show up more or do something different, right? So now in your body, your nervous system is not regulated. You don't really feel as confident or as safe as you were 6 months prior to the dating or the situation. So that's a question mark, but it's there. You put it in the back of your mind. You don't think about it. And then the next thing goes is you start confusing yourself in your mind. You start overthinking, overanalyzing, and start creating scenarios in your mind that could be true about what you're even not getting or what you might be feeling, right? So now there's a lack of safety in your mind. Now, one or two things could be happening for women. You could be highly insecure or triggered because of your past relationships or romance, or you can just be energetically and spiritually unaligned and trying to figure out what's going on. So you're probably trying to create safety within your mind to justify your feelings. Women lose trust because of nervous system regulation. Their nervous system don't feel as strong as it was when everything was as consistent, congruent, phenomenal. And if the guy is not being vulnerable or not communicating, of course, you're going to feel like something's off. He could be going through something. Something could have happened that he's not willing to tell you. And then, women lose trust because they don't feel safe in their mind when they think about the person. It's always something negative or about something in the past. Now, two things happen. You can shoot yourself on the foot and project your insecurities on a man and push him away, or you can go against what you feel and know and not have the conversation. So when you don't have the conversation about what you feel in your body and your mind, you continue to lose trust in the partnership and the relationship. However, you'll still take the actions, you'll still be available and do all the things you think you seem worthy. So, and I think this happens all the time in marriage because when you marry someone, you have kids, you just put up with it. Like this is my partner. This is what we do. The laws of rhythm. We have different moments. We have high moments. We have low moments. So in a lot of my conversation with the women I've helped get over, or get through a divorce, there's been information and things being said like, yeah, just at one point we just stopped having sex. Or my husband would say, you need to go to the gym. You should work out more. Or you're both are busy and you don't see each other as much. I don't do date night anymore. So another thing with what makes a woman lose trust is that the actions that were taken before in the relationship, as far as dating, as far as romance, as far as intimacy, has changed. And maybe you have kids and kids created the separation, right? That thing is not happening. The actions of the love and the romance that used to take place, maybe for the first 5 years or 7 years of the relationship, has removed itself. It's gone. So Now we got nervous system regulation, we got lack of safety in the mind, and now the romance that we once had for 5 years, say 5 years, is gone. So it's easy to lose trust. Now, the biggest thing with all of this is that a woman can only lose trust in these situations that you say nervous system, lack of safety in the mind, actions of romance. Now, all these are happening. These are viable reasons for women to lose trust. Fellas, you get what I'm saying? Nervous system regulation, lack of safety in the mind, and the actions of romance are not happening anymore. But here's the thing, the underlining thing of that is that because of some of these subtle changes, just because life happens, we got to be real, we got to be honest. You're not, as a man, you're not communicating, or you're not vulnerable, or you're not aware of what she's going through or understanding for her to lose trust. But you might think you're doing everything, you probably are. But there's a lack of communication, there's a lack of depth, there's a lack of vulnerability on both parties. It's not just men, it's women as well. And so sometimes I think women hold an unconscious expectation for men. And then when some men can't meet that, they lose trust too. So I think as men in our communication, we got to be honest, we got to be open, and we also shouldn't just commit because we think we should. We should also be honest about the commitment to certain things. I had one client say, my husband will always say he would take the trash out. And then when he didn't take the trash out, he said, I'll forget. I forgot. Oh, I'm going to take our son to baseball practice, or I'm going to call a coach for baseball. He forgot. And she said it would trigger her so much. So she got used to him not executing his words. She's lost trust. So when a woman loses trust, deep trust within you and in your partnership, there's no love, there's no intimacy. You just exist and coexisting in the same space and same house because you're married and you have businesses together and you're just kind of doing a thing. And also, I realize most women I've helped this year, they got married because they thought for their generation, because most of my clients are in their 40s and mid 40s, they did what they were supposed to do. You found someone who was in alignment at the time. You loved each other, best friend, whether or not, whatever. You have kids, you get married. Out of three of the four, three of them said they knew they shouldn't have married their spouse, that their intuition told them. And I always like, so why did you do it? Well, it's tradition. I thought I should do it. I mean, I had already agreed. I mean, why not? So another thing happens is that women lose trust as well from themselves because they go against what they know, and that's their intuition. They go against discernment. They go against the truth of what they feel, and they try to put logic over what they feel. It's hard for a woman to trust when she's not connected to her spirit. She's not connected to the goddess of her soul. She's not connected to her intuition. She's not connected to her discernment. That's another way for women to lose trust. You're disconnected from your heart space. You're not in your God frequency, you're in your ego frequency. And then you justify because you love them and y'all got kids and you want to do it for the family. You don't want to break up, because that's been a lot of why divorces don't happen. It's because of the businesses and because of the kids. But the kids, when they get a certain age, they already know. And let's be honest, separation is tough. Separation is hard. Grief is hard. And a lot of us don't want to separate things that we're so conditioned and programmed in being in. The moral of the story is that women lose trust for a lot of reasons, as I stated before, but it comes down to communication amongst individuals. If we're not communicating with authenticity, if we're not communicating with vulnerability, there can't be no trust. I remember my past situation, the person I was with at the time was very insecure, but it wasn't like conscious, it was unconscious. And they just always projected that I could or I would cheat on them. And then when I sit and had a conversation, I'm like, why are you doing? Like, what's wrong? I'm confused. Like, it was like a self-sabotage. I was just like, what's wrong? Like I got it, but it didn't make sense because nothing she was creating in her mind was true. It was like a false narrative. But I had to accept where she was at the moment, right? But what it was taken from me. It was hurting me. I was being hindered and being accused of something I wasn't doing. I couldn't like make it all her fault. I had to be aware where she was at, but it got to a point where it was just too much for both of us. And, it got to a point where, again, it was always about something that wasn't real, about another woman that never exists. There was no data. But outside looking in, because that was my ego, I mean, that was the truth. But outside looking in, she didn't know better. I couldn't make her feel bad for self-sabotaging something she wasn't ready for, or something she wasn't used to. So if I'm constantly giving healthy love and healthy support and you're used to chaos or disruption or challenge, and or it's too easy. You got to make it make sense for your nervous system. I say all those things to say the biggest thing in relationships, like I said from the beginning, is trust. Do you trust yourself? Do you trust your partner? And do you trust life? Because when you don't trust yourself and you don't trust your partner and you don't trust life, then there's no relationship. And then you got to start thinking about where's your emotional intelligence? Like, where's your EQ? If someone says something that goes against what you believe, are you triggered? Do you try to be reactive or proactive? Do you try to sit with it and understand it? All these things, right? All these scenarios, but I like to simplify it. And last but not least, some things just run their course. Some things serve their purpose. So I do believe in this day and age, I don't think you're meant to be with someone for your entire life unless you're meant to be with someone your entire life. You get what I'm saying? If you understand what I'm saying, some of you might not understand. So there's people in this lifetime, they're just going to be together for the rest of life because that's their life's purpose. That's their calling. It's just going to happen. Just like some people are going to hit the jackpot in this lifetime. Some people are going to be professional athletes, actors, and actresses. It just is. It's like love. And then there's some people who grow through relationships. They grow through marriages, divorces, friendships, challenges, changes, right? We got to be clear on it's not about it's all what women are not getting. It's also about where men don't understand. So what I think we don't understand as men, because communication is where it first lacks, or the lack of communication, or not vulnerable, honest communication, is that as men, we haven't been programmed and conditioned to emotionally and mentally and spiritually connect to our women. That's not something we're good at. And emotional intimacy, mental intimacy, spiritual intimacy is everything for a woman, because you can meet a woman who has money, who has her own, she's independent, which a lot of my clients have their own, and they don't care about the material parts that you can provide for them. They care about the vulnerable, intangible stuff. Another reason why women lose trust, women, listen to this, is because you don't have control over the situation like you once did before, or you don't have control over the relationship like you once did before. So now you're not losing trust in the person. You're not even losing trust in the relationship. You're losing trust in the control you once had over the relationship. A lot of this trust thing comes down to awareness, emotional intelligence, life experiences, where you are in your your ego, and when you are in your life, what you've been told about love, what you've been told about trust. When you set the intentions, when you first start dating someone, or when you get really close to a person, to have effective, vulnerable communication, the relationship can grow. And I believe the best partnership is the partnership where you and your spouse or your partner are like best friends. That's what I believe, right? Like the love's there, the communication's there, the honesty's there, the vulnerability there, and you're not holding back yourself. You can completely be you. And I think 95% of the times, most people are not themselves in relationships. I said it. 95% of the time. Because when we're controlling the relationship, we feel like everything's going good. But when we lose control, now we're walking on eggshells. Now you're trying to avoid from losing it because something you did or something you said or didn't say. So the main thing is communication, effective communication, intimacy, and understanding your partner's needs and not giving them their wants. See, a lot of times we're good at giving our partner what they want, but what do you need? Your partner might like, babe, you never tell me you love me when you leave. She's not really saying that. What she's saying is that she wants you to really be more intimate when you leave, hug her, give her a kiss, and then tell you you love her. Be more affectionate. She wants to feel the depth of your soul as a man. And women, sometimes you lose trust because you lost faith in yourself. You run in the business, you're taking care of all the kids, and you're being a mom, a CEO. Your husband is not getting no attention. So now he's losing interest because he's not getting the attention he needs or the validation. And so now everything is off. So all parties got to be accountable. But I think from my experience coaching so many powerful women, they are the ones who want the most affection, words, and intimacy. Independent women who run a successful business, who have their own, they want affection, they want intimacy, and they want meaningful connection. It might not come off that way, or it might not seem that way, but they want the vulnerability the most. They want the communication the most. They want the love the most. They want to be held. Usually what we put out is a mask of what we really want. But if they're usually the dominant one in a relationship, they're going to act like everything's okay. They're taking care. But at the end of the day, a woman is a woman, and she wants a man's love, and she wants to feel his masculinity, and she wants him to be there through the good, through the bad, through the ugly. And she wants to feel you. not just see you or hear you. She wants to feel you. So we also have to allow our presence to be felt when we're in a vibration of a woman. Now, look, some women are very manipulative, very controlling, very deceiving. I will agree. But once you're tuned into your higher self spiritually, man, and you know who you are, and you're not afraid to be embarrassed, you're not afraid to speak your truth, and you're not afraid to set boundaries and hold her accountable, she's going to love you more. So, just know it's a two-way street. Women lose trust for a lot of reasons: the nervous system regulation, lack of safety in the mind, the lack of action and romance, right? Maybe I should do a conversational episode on why men lose trust or why men leave relationships. Let me know if I should talk about that. But hopefully this episode connects. DM me on Instagram at Eric Bigger. Let me know what you think. By the way, don't forget to get you a bottle of Elia Sparkling Rose. EB20 is my promo code to get 20% off all orders up to $100. Shouts out to Simplify Impact, the marketing team that controls and maintains all my YouTube and social media for my podcast. People, don't forget to get you some It's a Miracle Season swag. Promo code M Season, all caps, for 50% off. It's the holidays. Get you some Miracle Season merch. But with that being said, why women lose trust, you got it, you get it. And if you don't, we can have another conversation. But it's all about effective communication, people. Vulnerability, intimacy, and just building that rapport within yourself so you can have that with someone else. So it is with so much gratitude. Don't forget to share, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the YouTube, and tell a friend to like this episode and listen in because I really want your feedback. Give me your honest feedback. I want to hear what you think. Help me, help you, help us, help the world. It's Miracle Season, Spiritual Fitness Podcast. We out. Peace.